Let's talk about context clues. Context clues are strategies that help you determine the meaning of unknown words or phrases. Let's look at an example. The Frick Collection was founded by Henry Clay Frick, the Pittsburgh coke and steel industrialist. At his death, Mr. Frick bequeathed his New York residence and the most outstanding of his many artworks to establish a public gallery for the purpose of encouraging and developing the study of the fine arts. The unknown word that we're going to look at here is bequeathed. Let's look at the words around the unknown word. In particular, let's look at the word death and the word public gallery. These might give us some hints. We're now going to talk about some strategies that you can use to help you figure out the definitions to word. These are called context clues. We'll come back to our example. The first thing you can do is find a synonym. You might find a word in the sentence or paragraph with the same meaning. For example, the homework was more complicated or difficult than she had first thought. The word that we're looking for is complicated, and we can find a synonym, difficult, so that we understand what that word means. You can also find an antonym. You might find a word in the sentence or paragraph that has the opposite meaning. That's an antonym. For example, even though some of the dogs were very docile, others were very mean. Our underlined word is docile. We can figure out what it means by looking at the words others were very mean. We know this is the opposite of docile. So if docile is the opposite of very mean, it must mean not very mean. You can also find an explanation. The word might be explained in the sentence before or after the unfamiliar word. For example, Joe was so exhausted he could hardly keep his eyes open. If we're looking for the meaning of the word exhausted, the fact that he could hardly keep his eyes open might help explain that that word means very, very tired. Another thing we might be able to do is find an example. Sometimes, right after the word, an example will be given. For example, celestial bodies, such as the sun, moon, and stars, can be seen in the sky. We had a lot of examples in that sentence of what celestial bodies are, so we can probably figure out from our context clues that they're objects that are in space. When all else fails, we can also make an inference. Often, a word's definition is not explained. When this happens, look for your clues in the sentences before or after the word. For example, the store manager is an affable man. He makes sure to greet every customer, and he's very approachable. So we know by looking around at the other sentences that affable might mean that he's a nice guy because he greets every customer and he's very approachable. Let's look back at our example. Use your context clues. Figure out if you can find the meaning of the word bequeathed. Any ideas yet? All right, let's consider the words death and public gallery. So we know that bequeath happens when somebody dies, and that it seems he had a lot of art, and he took that art to start a public gallery. So we can surmise that bequeathed means that somebody gives their things to somebody else upon their death. It means to pass on or leave something to someone after you die. If you need to, you can watch the video if you would like more help with context clues. The link is on activity number 2 in Google Classrooms. Next, you're going to do some independent practice. This is a graded assignment. You will read an excerpt from the novel Touching the Void by Joe Simpson. Use your context clue skills to determine the meaning of the highlighted words. When you are done, you're going to respond to the higher order questions on the next page. This is a worksheet and you must log off before you can complete this activity. You can get the copy of your worksheet from Ms. Funk or Ms. Baylor.